You are now tuned into the Anxious Ambition podcast, where you'll be hearing raw and unfiltered conversations with those who struggle with mental illness but refuse to let that get in the way of them achieving their dreams. Our hope is that by hearing their stories, you are inspired to do more. Here are their stories.
Anxious Ambition.
Welcome to another episode of the Anxious Ambition podcast. I am Justin, and today I have a special guest. Her name is Joanna Cowart. She's the founder of Downward Cow, which is a yoga page, yoga business that focuses on body positivity, inclusivity, all those things. She does retreats. She's working on a new academy and tons of classes, and I don't want to minimize what she does. She does tons of other things, and we're going to let her talk about it. But it's pretty much an inclusive way to do yoga, whether what race, size, doesn't matter. It's all inclusive, and it's super awesome because when I think of yoga, I think of skinny white girls, like rich bitches. It's true sometimes. You know what I mean? Yeah. So let me introduce you, Joanna Cowart, because she is not those things. So,
thank you. I appreciate that.
Strange intro, but
hey, we roll with it, right? I love it. That was great. But yes, hi, hello. I am so excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you. So can you tell people what is Downward Cow? Because I kind of butchered it. So what is it?
No, you know what? It's all good. You did a great job. So Downward Cow is essentially most of what you explained. It's a yoga business, and I call it like a health education business because I teach classes in the traditional physical yoga form, like a studio would or a regular yoga teacher would, of course. But then I also do teach yoga in like the education sense where, and this is something that we can kind of get into maybe later in the episode, but there's 8 limbs or branches, quote unquote, of yoga. And only one of them is this physical practice that we know and go to studios for. The rest of them are totally non-physical, and the rest of them people have no idea that they exist. And so I come at it as an approach of education in the way that like you can do yoga and not even step on a yoga mat. Like you can do all of these things if you don't feel like you can do yoga. Like you said, the stereotypical yogi is a person who's like white and thin and bitchy and drinks kale juice and spends $500 on a yoga membership a month. Like that's the kind of person that you think is the person that does yoga. And like, yeah, those people exist, but there's so many other people that would benefit from this practice because it's not just physical. And even people who are not that stereotypical yoga person can still benefit from the physical practice. And that's also how I teach like my classes. It's very inclusive, a lot of modifications, not one perfect way to do any of this, but then also educating in all of these other versions of yoga that like you can literally breathe and meditate and do certain things that like are not known, quote unquote, as yoga, and it's still yoga. And that's exactly what I want people to know about it. So yeah, it stumbled this page. It started as an Instagram page by accident.
Okay.
It was just something for me to like post yoga content when I got laid off from my corporate job because of COVID.
Yeah.
And I just had abundance of time, and I was doing a lot of yoga, and then it kind of blossomed into this business now, which is really exciting.
That's awesome. So let's tell people why the name. What does it mean?
So yes,
I listen to many of your podcasts. I know, but I want everyone to know.
So Downward Cow, Downward Dog is like I feel like quintessential yoga pose. Like
Absolutely.
Everyone knows downward facing dog. So I felt like that was a very relatable, kind of obviously pose. The name actually came from my husband, who is a graphic designer and like artist, and he's just very creative in that way. When we were thinking of names for this Instagram page, like I mentioned, it was not initially supposed to be a business. It was just supposed to be a name for an Instagram page that was separate from my personal account because I didn't want to annoy the people in my life.
Yeah, I do.
Which is right. Yeah. So like you want to be able to have freedom and like post as many times as you want and not be like bothering those people. So I didn't want to call it Joanna Yoga. So I wanted to have some creative name. My married last name is Cowart. And so like cow, literally COW is the first 3 letters of my last name. And also, like we mentioned, I am very much not the stereotypical yogi. I don't look like that kind of person. I don't, want people to feel like that is the only way, the only person that can do this practice. So then it became this like embodiment of body positivity and yoga for all and all of these things. And then this little logo is like, again, my husband's a graphic designer. He made it's literally a cow doing downward facing dog. Like it's so cute.
Perfect. It's perfect.
The branding is literally so awesome. He did such an amazing job. And it's very, I feel like it perfectly encompasses everything that I want to be, and making a play off my last name in a way of like yoga for everybody, and that it's just like very memorable. So all of those things are kind of what made it, and here it is, and I love it.
It's the perfect name.
Thank you.
It's perfect. I mean, you, like you said, it's a downward facing dog. Like you could know nothing about yoga and see the logo and see the name and be like, okay, it's yoga.
Right.
Like instantly. Even if you don't know what the hell it is, like what downward facing dog is.
Right, definitely.
Let me ask you this. Was there ever any like other names you thought of?
Yeah, so it's
because what was plan B? If it was taken on Instagram or something.
If it was taken on Instagram, that's a good point. So we were playing around with the idea because, like I said, I wanted it to be kind of unique. In the back of my mind, there was always the potential of like, maybe I would teach some classes, and that way then it would be like a name that people could somehow search. But again, it wasn't supposed to be a business, but still in my mind, I was like, I want it to be cool. Like, I don't want it to be this, like, again, Joanna Yoga or like something dumb.
Classic,
so I was looking up ideas with my husband, and my husband has his own business. Mm-hmm. And also, obviously, this has been his last name his whole life. And his business name is called Cowply. And it's a woodworking like business. And so Cow, like his last name, Cowart, and then Ply, like plywood. So then I was like, all right, like, let me maybe do something with, like, I wanted to do something kind of with cow. I wanted it to be like short, one word. So then I was thinking like Cowga, like cow yoga, which I also think was like, I thought was cute, but it's not that great. No, it's much better. Yeah. That was what I was like, when I was thinking about it, I was like, this is a good name. Like, this is a kind of cute little playoff. And then my husband was like, no, this isn't that great. But what about downward cow? Like, I don't want to be, I don't want you to get offended. I'm not calling you like fat or whatever. And I'm like, no, I'm going to embrace it. Like, I always made fun of him because we've been together for like 8 years. And I was like, my last name when I'm married to you, it's going to have the word cow in it forever. Like, my kids are going to get bullied. Like, it's going to be a thing. Yeah. And I was like, you know what? No, just kidding. I'm going to embrace it. Like, it's going to be the body positivity movement. It's going to be the play off the last name. It's like going to be all the things. And I feel like it's very perfect.
Oh, you made the right choice.
Thank you. I will have to sell him that too.
Yeah, I hear Cowga and I think like goat yoga.
Yeah, right.
Or like,
something
like,
weird like
so
that.
Actually using cows.
Yes.
This is going to be crazy. Like,
which is, not that.
So when it comes to the business, actually, let's talk about yoga. So yoga as a whole, a lot of people use it to help with their mental health. And you brought up not doing like the physical stretching of it. Like for me personally, I've never really been into this the stretching portion. I mean, chakras, meditation, all that type of stuff, the breathing exercises, like I love that stuff. So like the fact that you brought up, there's so many different parts to it. There's way more ways, even if you don't want to do the stretching part. That's awesome that you're going to be educating people in all these different forms. So outside of the stretching, I mean, stretching, what is the right term? Limb.
I was going to say, it's funny.
I sound so belittling.
No, you don't. Not at all. Though it's funny that you say that because a lot of people use synonyms, yoga and stretching. They say they are the same thing. Like yoga is stretching and that's all it is. And so like when you think about if you were to do a workout, like a, I don't know, weightlifting workout or like a cardio workout or whatever, and you quote unquote stretch beforehand, the things that you're doing are yoga poses. Like you're doing yoga when you're quote unquote stretching. So like, it's a fine way to say that it's stretching. Like it's not a bad word by any means, but there are Sanskrit, the yogic language that goes back thousands of years. There are Sanskrit names for every single stretch that you're doing. So like you can just call it yoga. You can just call it the physical form of what it is. Literally the limb of yoga, like I was mentioning earlier, there are 8 limbs of the well-rounded practice of yoga. The one that is physical is called asana. And so like when you're stretching or when you're in a yoga class and you're physically moving, you're doing asana, and that's what it's called.
Okay.
But you can call stretching, I mean, it's not
Sure.
like a bad word. But I always just like to call it myself, like in terms of the physical practice, I either say the physical movement or I say just movement or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I think in terms of mental health too, like it's not only is the physical form of practice so beneficial in terms of mental health, and that's how most people are exposed to yoga, and that's how
Right.
most
Right.
people like fall in love with this practice and how it makes them feel and all that stuff, because they get to
Mhm.
move and they're told in practice, connect your body with your breathing and really focus on yourself and turn inwards for the hour, whatever. Like all of that is amazing stuff, and it is. But all of these other limbs of yoga, the 7 of the 8, non-physical. So the first limb of yoga, for example, is all about like your basically ethical code of conduct for life. So when you're moving about and you're experiencing life and you're feeling non-violent to people, like you don't want to hurt people, you don't want people to hurt you, that is a feeling of yoga. When you're cleaning your room, it's called saucha. That's a part of one of the limbs of yoga. That's doing yoga. Like when you're respecting people's time and energy, that is doing yoga. And all of these things are kind of self-care, self-help
Mhm.
tips. Like I think our westernized world that we live
Sure.
in,
Yeah.
I think makes us think that we created self-care, but like self-care are yogic philosophies,
Mhm.
just in English words. So when you are, like you said, when you're breathing, like that is an entire limb of yoga called pranayama. The fact that you can breathe, you can do yoga. And that in itself is an entire practice. And there's all these different ways that you can manipulate your breath and have it feel certain ways and oxygenate your body and like give it this life, the thing that literally keeps you alive, that people
Right.
never pay attention that they're actually doing all day, every day. Like it's so important. And like you said, meditation, it's the highest form of physical, or rather, highest form of yoga. Like obviously it's physical in the way that you're sitting and you're breathing intentionally,
Sure.
but in the 8 limbs of yoga, it basically goes from 1 to 8, 1 being the most external of your life
Yeah.
to 8 being the most internal. Like you have enlightened your body and your spirit, and like
More
you are just
spiritual
zen.
parts. Yeah.
Exactly. And
Right.
meditation is number 7 of 8. So when you're meditating, you are truly in the highest version of this practice that you possibly can be, because 8 is enlightenment. Like you don't get any higher than 8. 8 is like your finish line basically.
Got it.
So that in itself, I mean, it's huge. And to be able to just sit and close your eyes and focus on your breath and try to like calm your mind for a few minutes, if that's
Mhm.
all it takes for you, I mean, that's huge. And to be able to do that maybe once a week or once every day or something along those lines, like it is just so powerful. And so like all of these things combined are so beneficial for your mental health. And that's why, again, I really want to educate people on all of these other versions, because
Mhm.
you can do yoga just by doing breathing exercises, and that can be the only yoga that you ever do ever, and you're still doing yoga. I want to let
Yeah.
people know that there's so many ways that you can practice, and all of this is beneficial for your mental health and physical health, like literally all of the things, spiritual health, emotional health, all of those things. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just such a powerful practice.
Yeah. It's yoga is like that all encompassing, physical
Absolutely.
and mental.
Right.
And I think it's really important the fact that you talked about all the other limbs, because like I mentioned, like for me, I haven't really done the stretching portion of it. Okay. And not that, and maybe it is intimidating to me or other people, but like you can get started in it by, hey, how about you meditate or you try the breathing exercises, then then you try doing all the other limbs and things like that. Like I remember, like it was in college, I was talking to someone, like they were super into like the physical practice of yoga, and I was really into meditation. And like all of our views and stuff were aligned, because we were all kind of in that same, I don't want to say same frequency, but it was a similar thing. Like just because
Yeah,
I wasn't,
frequency is a great
yeah,
word.
I know it is. I know you,
Yeah, it is. We
yeah,
can talk about manifestation all day.
yeah. We're definitely gonna get there.
Yeah.
So what is your favorite limb? Like, what is your favorite limb? If it's not the physical, what is it?
This is really hard. I feel like, oh, I love so many. I really
Or what
think
do you see yourself doing the most? I guess.
pranayama is probably
Yeah.
the most, because it is the easiest. Like every human in this planet. Like you are doing yoga just by breathing. Like it's just the conscious awareness and like your manipulation of breath. But like when you're stressed and you like take a deep sigh, like that is already like you're doing pranayama, you're doing this breathing exercise. And that's what I think I probably love most about it. I love all of them, of course, in all of their different ways, but I feel like pranayama is so great because it makes you appreciate like the thing that, again, literally keeps you alive. Like it is, if without it, you would not be here. And it's the thing that helps, I feel like, ground you a lot of the times when you're feeling stressed or anxious or whatever, like just focusing on your breathing. And then if you find that you want to practice a little bit further and actually learn some techniques and different breathing exercises, like it can change everything for you. And I think that that's probably my number one.
I like that. I think I'd have to, I mean, without knowing as much, like the breathing, like it's the one, like you said, it's the one thing we can control. It is the one thing that we've had our entire lives too, something that's constant, right?
Absolutely.
Whether our physical body changes and all that, but we always have our breath, and we always, even though we do it subconsciously, when we take control over it, you can really switch your state, get into that parasympathetic state,
Absolutely.
totally calm yourself. Yeah, I love the breathing. Do you what's your, I mean, like box breathing? Would you consider that?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a technique. I like.
There's some crazy breathing stuff.
Oh,
yeah, like really intense stuff.
I'd have to look up the exact like terms of them.
Sure.
But there's some, I'm pretty sure one was called Kapalabhati, and it's like you either can sit like cross-legged and put your hands like kind of hunched over on your knees, and then you take a big breath in, and then you just go.
Oh, I've seen that.
Exhaling so quickly, and like that's all it is, and it's like doing something on the insides, doing something to your organs, and that's crazy. And then there's another one, I think, I don't know what the name is exactly. Again, they're all Sanskrit names, like words that no one speaks anymore, but they all still have names. And it's one that you stand, and again, you kind of hunch over and you grab like onto your knees. And I've never done this before, but I've seen it happen. And like you like suck all the breath in, and then like suck your stomach into your abdomen or like something up in there, and then like your stomach like rolls kind of, like it's crazy. And like it's supposed to be like cleansing your organs, like that's literally what your body is like kind of doing. I've never been able to do it. I've tried, and it's truly like a legitimate practice you have to learn and like do to be able to be good at. But that one looks like you're having like an exorcism kind of, but
exactly.
But it's great. I mean, people literally swear by it. Like it's so cool. But I think, in terms of easy ones, like box breathing is so great. Breathe in for 4, pause for 4, exhale for 4, pause for 4.
Easy.
Or there's one called Nadi Shodhana, and it's like you take your fingers and you exhale through one nostril and then inhale through the same, and then switch nostrils and then exhale, and then inhale through that nostril and then switch again and exhale. And it's like, that's a pretty easy one as well. So there's definitely ones that are not so intimidating, but I think all of them are just great, and I totally think that everyone should be doing them.
Yeah, I mean, you got to start somewhere. I mean, it's not like you're gonna jump in and doing some crazy yoga pose the first time you do it either. You got to start slow.
Absolutely.
And like you said, everyone can do it, and there's also variations for everything too. I mean, if you're doing box breathing and you can't breathe in for 4 seconds, just do 2 seconds.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah,
and that's very much how I teach my classes in general. Like, and it's kind of a well-rounded way of going back to the name of the business and all of the things that I do. If you can't do this specific way, it doesn't mean that it's not meant for you. It doesn't mean that your body is not able to do it. Like, find a different variation to make it work for you, because we all could use yoga in terms of, we all could use this physical, mental, emotional, spiritual health. And yoga, the practice of yoga and all of these limbs hits all of those facets. Like, we all need it. And just because you're in a bigger body or you're a different race or you don't have enough money or like whatever, doesn't mean that you can't do it. Like, it's still for you. We'll just find ways that make it work for you.
Absolutely. This reminds me of fitness, that whole, like the fitness industry too. So I'm thinking, people are intimidated to go work out because they think bodybuilder, right? You're thinking bodybuilder, and you think, oh, the guy's a douchebag, or the girl cares way too much. And then it's like, no, everyone needs exercise.
Right.
You can go walk on the treadmill or go lift weights and start slow, similar to yoga. I mean, so you got to separate the stereotype from it.
Absolutely.
and everyone needs it in a sense. So it's like, just start slow, and it's not as intimidating as it looks.
No, and I think it's just, do a little bit of your own research, or
Mhm.
find the people or the businesses or the accounts on Instagram or whoever that kind of relate to you, that make you feel like it's accepting. And that's what I
Mhm.
try to do as well. And I'm sure you the same, like
Right.
try to make people feel welcomed into your space because you know that it's beneficial. They just might not know. They just might not understand that it can be for them. And so then allow them to be a part of your little community. They can feel welcomed, that like, oh, maybe I can do this, and here are some starting points, and then it kind of can blossom from there.
Absolutely. So obviously, on Anxious Ambition, we talk a lot about mental health. Have you ever, I mean, have you had any past experiences that you feel comfortable talking about, like with maybe anxiety, depression, anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, I mean, going back to when I was like in middle school, high school,
Yeah.
I was severely bullied for being the fat kid, quote unquote, and that was really hard. I went to therapy for a
Mm.
while, um, and kind of worked through that and unpacked a lot of the things, just like limiting beliefs, and like negative body image, and
Mhm.
I can't do these things. Very similar to fitness in general. I mean, like I didn't even know. I knew the word yoga, but
Yeah.
like I never practiced yoga literally until I was probably out of college. But even then, like when I was in middle school and high school, like in terms of fitness, would get made fun of for like not having a super high mile time, or like just silly things that, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
kids in middle school are brutal, and like
Oh
it
yeah.
was it was not a fun experience for me. Um, Thankfully, like I am out on the other end. I
Yeah.
am very okay with my life and everything
Right.
about all of that. But then even recently, in kind of changing gears, another mental health thing that I had to go to therapy for as well was just like COVID.
Sure.
And I think a lot of people obviously experienced that, but mine was specific to my dad got COVID, and he almost
Yeah.
like it was severe. He was in the ICU for like 25 days. It was very, very hard, and it was traumatic. And I was really angry at like a lot of people, just angry at the whole situation, more so than just grieving the loss of like regular life. It was like, I'm pissed, and like I'm
Yeah.
walking around every day so mad, and I like don't know what to do about it.
Yeah.
So therapy was huge. And one of the things that the therapist had helped me come back to was the practice of meditation. And
Awesome.
he knew that I was a yoga teacher. And so like we obviously kind of connected on that. Like it wasn't just this random recommendation that he gave to a
Mhm.
client that like, or a patient rather, who like he didn't know would
Yeah.
actually take
He
to
knew
it.
you knew better.
He knew I knew that I would do it. Yeah, but
Yeah.
it was kind of like, unfortunately, knowledge doesn't dictate behavior. Like just
Oh yeah.
because I knew that meditation was so important doesn't mean that I was doing it every single day, because life is hard. It gets in the
Yeah.
way. Things are challenging, and yeah, mental health is huge when it's compromised. Like it doesn't feel like you can do anything. But he helped me kind of go back to the practice, and I still fall out sometimes. I haven't
Yeah.
meditated, in probably like a week or two, which has been pretty rough
Yeah. It
because life
happens.
gets busy.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But it really helped me kind of push through, because at the end of the day, and this is something that I feel like is really true with any mental health, or anxiety, or things that you struggle with, when you're hurting, a lot of the times it's things that like we're creating in our own mind, and we're only hurting ourselves when we are doing so. So like for my example, when I was just really angry about COVID and all of those things, like I would truly like wish bad things about people because I was so mad at them for like breaking the rules and doing
Yeah.
things that I wasn't doing, and I was so
Hmm.
mad. Don't these people care? Are they're so selfish, whatever. Then I would get angry, and the only person that was getting angry and feeling upset was me. So like I just had to realize that as I was meditating, honestly, I would sit with myself, kind of thoughts would come into my mind, and I would recognize that like I'm only hurting myself when I'm doing these things. Maybe I should just kind of have a little mindset switch, and see if there's other things that I can do to make me feel less angry or like a little bit better. And I know that is not the same. You can't just tell someone who has depression, like, just stop being depressed, like
Right.
think differently. It's not obviously going to work in every scenario, but it's just something that is, something to be mindful of, that if you have something going on,
Hmm.
kind of sit with yourself, take some time, close your eyes, literally just be with you, and with your thoughts and with your breath, and kind of notice what comes up to the surface. And that's a lot of what the yoga practice does. It like forces you to look at yourself and see what's going on, and things come up that you don't even realize you've been holding back, or that you have been storing in your subconscious, and it's kind of healing in certain ways. Definitely not like if there's a professional that you need to see, go see a professional, of course, but there's some things that, you know, it definitely can help. And I feel like in my personal life, throughout the things that I have worked through, it's definitely been really helpful.
And I think and you bring up a good point too, even bringing up the depression part. Like for me personally, like I deal with depression and anxiety. Like actually right now, I'd say the last couple of weeks, I have been in more of like a depressed state, right? But you can't, like you bring up the meditation, like I know that I need to meditate more now so I can reflect and really think of what I can do to make it better. Like even though the meditation isn't going to
cure you.
Yeah, it's not going to cure me. It's not going to boost my serotonin. It's not, you know, but it's going to give me perspective. It's going to say, okay, hey, you've been eating like shit and you need to eat better. You need to exercise. You still need to put in the work, even if you need professional help, even if, you know, if you have depression, you go to the doctor, it gives you a pill, that is not going to cure you. It's not going to fix you. It might make things a little easier, but you still need to practice everything else. So like,
yeah, absolutely.
And that's, there's never going to be one thing. And yeah, I love meditation too. It's something, I mean, it's self-love, right?
100%.
Yeah, if we're not doing it, well, one, I will say this too, it's hard. People don't want to go inside.
No.
They want to unpack all the shit.
Right. They don't want to go inside. They don't want to unpack the things that they're not dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
They're uncomfortable with silence. They're uncomfortable. They don't think that they're doing it right. They think that it lasts 100 years when they're sitting for 5 minutes. Like there's so many reasons for people to not do it. And they're just like, well, I don't know what I'm doing. This is pointless. I'm just sitting here. I'm not feeling anything. I'm not doing anything. Like it's dumb. So then they just don't do it. But like, truly, it's a practice, as the physical practice of yoga, or as finding your exercise and getting good at it. Like it's all a practice. Nothing is going to come completely natural to anyone. So when you're meditating, if it sucks for a long time in the beginning, like just continue on and keep practicing. And that's the point, is that every moment or every time that you sit down and meditate, it's going to be a different experience, and it's going to help you along the practice of meditation. Like there is no end goal. You just try to get better at it. And maybe you sit for 1 minute, and then you sit for 2 minutes, and then you sit for 5 minutes, and then 10, and then 20, and see where you go. Like I used to think 1 minute of meditation was literally going to make me die, because I just hated it. I couldn't sit with myself. And now sometimes I meditate for 20 minutes and I'm like, that felt like 2 seconds. And I've meditated into like a different universe. And I just like feel incredible. And like, it changes your perspective on so many things. And I get why people don't want to do it, but I definitely think that it's so beneficial, and that they should just try and find one thing that works for them. Maybe a guided meditation. Maybe don't sit with yourself immediately in silence. Do guided meditations, and then do meditations with music playing in the background, and then see. And it doesn't mean that sitting and meditating in silence is the holy grail, the only way that you can do it. You can do guided meditations every day for the rest of your life, and you're still meditating. Like it doesn't have to be like one all or nothing kind of thing.
Absolutely. Like, that was a great point. I was actually going to try to bring that up myself. It's like, don't think that you have to just sit in silence and that's the only way to meditate. Like for me personally, I would say, most of the time it's something with music. Technically, it's a guided meditation, but I'll just honestly just put it on. It's like I put in my headphones and have something draw out the outside noise, right?
Yeah.
Because honestly, finding silence is a whole nother, challenge. Finding silence in the world we live in. If you're a mom, dad, you have kids. Like, this is kind of just like helping people remove the excuses. Like, there's always a way you can do meditation, whether it's, for me, a lot of times I'll just throw on my headphones while I'm laying in bed to go to bed, do a guided meditation, get myself in that higher frequency and fall asleep. There's so many ways to do it. If you're thinking about taking a nap, how about you meditate for 5 minutes before you take a nap?
Right.
Or just think, just sit and think for a while. Like it doesn't have to be this huge thing. You could throw on some music, you don't have to be doing ohms. You just
right. And that's such a great point too. And that's kind of why I think this business that I've been creating
Mm-hmm.
creating is so unique in the way that like people assume not only is the stereotype of a yoga person that thin, white, rich, you know, whatever kind of
Yeah.
person, but they also think then that in order to do meditation or to do all these breathing exercises, like you have to be a Buddhist monk to do that. Like
Right.
you have to be so extreme on the other end that like those are the only kinds of people that are successful in that. I can't do that. It's like, no, here I am, like a regular girl who went to
Mm-hmm.
regular public school. I didn't do anything fancy. I'm not a fancy monk. I don't, you
Right.
know, I literally am an average person creating education and tips on this topic that I think is so important, and kind of, for lack of a better word, dumbing it down to make it accessible
Yeah.
for you. Like, let's find relatable, like realistic ways for you to bring this into your life, because we don't all have to become yoga teachers or be Buddhist monks to find success in this practice and making ourselves be better in whatever facet of our lives that we need to be.
Absolutely. It makes me think of church almost. Like there's people that let's just say they're Catholic, whatever. They consider themselves Catholic. They practice, you know, the beliefs that they learned and all that. But if they don't go to church every weekend, they're still a Catholic.
Right.
You know, like I'm more of a spiritual person, but like for me, I don't have to be going out and doing yoga or doing like a physical practice every morning to be considered like yogi or believe in those beliefs. Like if someone asks
Absolutely.
me, like, oh, I love yoga, you know, I meditate all the time. I have some strong beliefs in it. Like no one's gonna be like, oh, did you do do you practice all 8 limbs? And like, no.
Did you do your 60-minute yoga class
Yeah.
5 days a week or whatever? Like, no.
And if they
If
say
I
that,
don't do that,
fuck
it
them.
doesn't mean
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Like, just it's
Those are the
again, like
people.
we
Yeah.
said, not all or nothing. Those are the
Right.
people who, like, I honestly then would believe are stuck in the ways that this country or this westernized culture that we
Mm-hmm.
live in has like made them believe that like it is all or nothing. You have to do all of these things in order to be that type of person. Like, no, let's like relax a little bit about it. Let's take it at our own pace. Let's make it work for us. It doesn't have to be, one extreme or
Yeah.
nothing.
It's
You
not
can
black or
find your
white.
middle. Right.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, tell these people to F off. Like,
Yeah. You could. Yeah. It's.
screw them. You can let it be, let it work for you. Because then I feel like when people believe those things that people say to them, then they're like, all right, well then I guess I'm not a yoga student. I guess because I didn't practice today,
Right.
I'm not a yoga student. And then screw that. I can't do it. And it's like, no, you can do it. Find what works for you.
Exactly. Just because it's like saying, okay, well, if the guy you work with is a, bodybuilder, packs his lunch every day, it's like even though I'm not eating chicken and broccoli every day, you could still be into fitness. Like there's
Right.
just it. Don't make it black or white. And if, like I said, like we both said, if someone's that extreme, that they're not worth your time. They're probably more worried about. They probably like the idea of being a yogi than they actually like being a yogi. If that makes sense. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like they like
Yeah.
the sexiness of it, or romanticizing it, things like that.
Right.
So we briefly talked about manifestation. So on this podcast, we love talking to people who are ambitious. They have big dreams, and for me personally, manifestation has been a huge component of that. I know it is for you too. Can you tell people at home? I guess what is it? What is manifestation?
Just
Also known as like law of attraction. I would say that too.
Could talk about manifestation / law of attraction all day, every day. It is something that was relatively new to me. I had already been practicing yoga. I actually would think that I was already a registered yoga teacher before I even had to like realize what manifesting was. And I remember because when I was in my yoga teacher training, I was switching from one corporate job to another, the one that I ended up getting laid off from. And it was, I was having a really hard time at the one job that I was leaving, and I got this new job, and I just like everything in my life was better. I was like no longer yelling at the world and screaming in my car and crying and like being all upset. And I remember one of the people in my program was like, you manifested that. Like that wasn't by accident. You manifested it. And I was like, haha, yeah. Like, I don't know what you just said to me. Like, I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until I literally stumbled upon some random person's YouTube video, honestly, like late at night as I was scrolling through, and it was talking about what the law of attraction was and manifesting and all of that. And it's truly opened my eyes. And it basically, for anyone who doesn't know, like the law of attraction is a law of the universe. It is happening to us whether we believe in it or not. Like if you don't believe in the law of gravity, it doesn't mean that you're going to start floating up in the air one day. Like it's happening regardless if you
exactly
believe
right.
in it or not.
Absolutely.
Right. So the law of
It's
attraction
still
is also
happening.
happening to us.
Yeah.
Correct. It is a universal law. It's like fact. It's science. So in this law of attraction, basically it states like attracts like. So if you're having negative thoughts and negative beliefs and everything is just going wrong in your life and continuously going wrong and wrong and wrong and wrong every single day, you're just like, wow, my life sucks. I hate everything. You know, you're going to continuously attract negative experiences and negative things in your life. If, however, you raise your vibration and you start attracting positive things in your life by living positively, thinking positively, expressing gratitude, doing all of these things that put you at a higher vibrational state, you will start attracting more positive things in your life. And by vibrational state, and I know obviously you understand what this is, but for those who don't understand, everything in the world, everything in this universe is vibrating. Like think of science class when you think about like atoms and they're all moving and everything in matter is moving, whether you can see it or not. Like your fingernail, if you look closely enough, like the cells are moving and your iPhone, whatever, everything is moving and everything vibrates at a different frequency. So things that vibrate at a low frequency versus things that vibrate at a high frequency, and you want to be at a high frequency. Higher vibrational frequencies create higher vibrational positive experiences. So that's essentially what you're trying to do with this manifesting and the law of attraction. You're using tools like scripting, aka journaling in the present tense. Like I have this. Yeah, I love scripting. And it just makes you feel grateful as you're writing about these things in your life that you wish that you had, but you're writing them as if you already have them. And it does something literally in your body and brain that then eventually your brain and your experience in life starts vibrating at a higher level. And then again, like attracts like. Higher vibration attracts higher vibration. So like it's the same scenario if anyone has ever heard Jim Carrey. He is like the celebrity that talks about the law of attraction and manifesting the most. He wrote himself a $10 million check and said like, I'm going to cash this in 5 years or whatever. And at the time he was like living in his car and just broke and, whatever. And instead of feeling negative every day, like, wow, I live in my car and everything sucks and whatever, only continuously bringing negative experiences, he literally in interviews says, I would drive in my car and say, you know what, but I do have this money and I do have this job and I do have all these things, already putting his brain in a better state, literally positively and frequency level. And like, look at him. He is such a successful actor and cashed that $10 million check that he wrote to himself. Like it is factual. It is legitimate. And I think people think that it's woo-woo and weird and, witchy or too spiritual for me and all of these things.
Sure.
But like, it doesn't have to be this, like, again, kind of otherworldly, alien-esque type thing.
Right.
Like, and it's frustrating because it's just a powerful thing. Like, just make it work for you. It's clearly doing its job every single day, like whether you believe in it or not. So just like do the things that you can try to do to make it work for you, to elevate your life and elevate, the things that you want to attract, like the experiences or the people or the relationships or the money or like whatever you want. And it's just frustrating. And by that, I mean, like people are so willingly believing in like religion, but they don't believe in like this kind of thing. Like it's the same thing. God and the universe are synonyms. They are the same thing. Right. Whether you believe in God or you believe in the universe and like all of those things, like they're literally the same. People just, I think, are so understandably okay with religion because it's way more like known and accepted.
Sure.
But then like the opposite of manifesting and the law of attraction and calling it just the universe makes it feel like it's like aliens.
Like you're praying.
Right. Like you're manifesting in that way. When you're speaking to God and praying for positive things, like you're literally raising your vibration. That's exactly what you're doing. So maybe then if people assume and kind of think about it in that way, if they're a really religious person, you're doing the same thing already. So just continuously allowing it to work for you and be positive, like that is the way to literally manifest things into your life that you never thought were possible.
I love that. That was a perfect way to explain it to people. I think
Thank
something
you.
really important too is that, like you mentioned, when someone brought up, like it's always, you said it's always happening. The universe doesn't know if what you're asking for is like good or bad, right? So like if you don't want something, like that's a huge one, I think, for people. You know, if people like could say you're running late to work, you know, and you're like, oh, I don't want to be late to work, I don't want to be late to work. And then you're late to work, like you just manifested that and you may not have even really known it. But if you're in this state of like let's just say you're like, oh, I don't want to be late to work. So the universe is just hearing like late to work, right? You need to change the way you say things too, or think things. Be like, okay, like, hey, I want to be on time today. You know, like there was a time in my life where I was like when I first got into manifesting, I just kind of like heard about it. So I started writing all these things. I was like, hey, I don't want to be like, I don't want to have any debt. I don't want to be anxious. And nothing changed, you know, because I was still focusing on not having it. The universe just kept giving it and giving it.
Right.
So it's I don't want to say it is difficult. I mean, it definitely is another practice, just like yoga.
Absolutely.
It takes time. But you're
a
also
lot of
not
energy.
a lot of energy. Oh yeah, and like an example that I like to give, it's just proof, right? I scripted. I scripted for like 30 days. I wrote down a bunch of different things, like whether it was some was like financial, relationship, social media, a bunch of different stuff, right? And like what you said about the feeling part, you know, you want to write it down. Like think of your goal and then write it down as if you're experiencing it and feel it. The main thing is feeling it, like you said.
Right.
So like I've got one, actually it's a perfect example. So my last thing I say was like I'm attracting like-minded, positive people into my life that are going to help me grow like financially, spiritually, you know, and all those things. And like the truth of the matter is, you know, like we connected other people, like I've connected with all these people. And I think a big part of manifestation is you also become more aware of these opportunities that can lead to what you're looking for. So whether it's that dream job, dream car, you know, maybe it's just an opportunity. If you're recognizing like, okay, like, hey, I know Joanna, I can connect with her. You know, like I would say, have you watched The Secret?
Yes.
Okay, because that's funny that wasn't your first
thing to explain.
thing. Because that's like the first thing for a lot of people.
It is. Well, and I only don't share that because I watched The Secret and it's great. But to me, The Secret feels still kind of woo-woo. Like
it's very woo-woo.
Right. And so like to me is, and as amazing as it is, and I believe all of the things that, you know, are in that I think it was maybe a book first and then it was a movie, whatever. Yeah. I believe all of the things that obviously it's sharing, but I feel like it's literally filmed in a way that makes it feel like it's this, again, kind of weird thing that's like not real. And so like I don't tell people to go watch The Secret because it's like I don't want to stray them away and make them think that like it's this thing that doesn't exist and it's just you're lying and it's stupid and whatever. So I don't share The Secret, but I have watched it. And obviously I 100% believe. And like you said, it's really crucial too. Not only does having the feeling and using the tools as you're manifesting to become aware of these new opportunities, but like it's literally the universe then starts recognizing the things that you want and you start taking an aligned and inspired action. Like literally the law of inspired action is like another law. And like, so you have to want the things that you want and script them by pretending that you have them, like saying that in the present tense, or visualizing when you're meditating, like literally seeing the thing that you want, whether it's a house or kids or a relationship or a dog or whatever. And then when you know that that's what you want, then you start taking action. You don't just say, I want a $100 million, whatever the hell car.
Sure.
And then just be like, let me just sit on it and hope that it comes to me. Like, that's not how it works.
And that's what The Secret makes it out to be.
Right. Yeah. Like, you can't just wish for these things and then all of a sudden it's like, poof, here it is. That's not how it works. Because, I mean, like, the reality material things don't just show up at your doorstep. You have to put in the work and do them. So when you are thinking of these things that you want in your future reality, you start then envisioning the kind of person that you would be, or the kind of person that someone would be that has those things. And then you start taking the action to start doing those things. And it's sometimes intentional, like you then, okay, I know that I want to be a healthier version physically, then I know I have to start eating better or exercising more or whatever. So those are intentional steps. But sometimes when you think, I want to make more money, like for example, me, I have been manifesting a successful yoga business since I started. And I just like unknowingly start doing things that make it more successful. And yes, part of it is very intentional. And the other parts are just kind of like, this is the inspired action that like is necessary, and it just kind of happens, and I'm not actually planning on it. Like the opportunities for podcasts, like this example, you and I connect so well, we're vibrating together on a very high frequency, and like this is such a great opportunity that, you know, it just happened, and like it is going to allow continued success in the future. And like those are things that I think people also need to recognize, that when you start wanting things, you have to take action. The universe needs you to kind of step up to make the decision of what you're going to do, and then they'll kind of kick in the other half.
That's perfectly said, because we still have free will. I mean, it's not like,
of course.
Yeah, like it's not like if you say, oh, hey, I want to, hopefully I get this, I want to be a doctor or something. You sit on your ass, like, yeah, you might see an opportunity like, hey, apply for this school. Okay, you don't apply for the school, nothing's
You're not
changed.
going to get there, right?
Yeah, but you might start like you said, it's the universe is going to provide the opportunities.
Yes. And what I love most about manifesting and the law of attraction and all of these things is like the signs from the universe that you're on the right track, because the numeric synchronicities, let me tell you, are just, that is my way of like knowing that the universe.
I got a 444
like,
before we started.
Yes, I'm sure. And we're almost at 555.
I know.
But there was a day that I literally saw 222 in different settings 6 times in one day. And I was like, all right, I mean, like the universe is telling me something here. And I have also, because you can kind of like just decide, I think that when I know that I'm on the right path, I want to see numbers, and that's kind of how you see it. Or you say, when I know that I'm on the right path, I want to see a rabbit, or I want to see an animal, or you want to hear a song, or like do something, like make the choice of what you want to then like see or hear or whatever. And that will just give you the confidence that like you're on the right track. And again, it sounds very woo woo to like be waiting for a number or whatever, but like when you think about it in just living your everyday, like, oh, I saw 222 on the clock today. All right, sweet. Like, I know that I'm still chilling on the right path. And then, because there have been times that I wasn't manifesting for a while. And again, we're always manifesting negative or positively, but I wasn't intentionally trying to manifest positive things. And I stopped seeing numbers like altogether. I was never seeing any of the synchronicities. I wasn't seeing anything. And then I started intentionally practicing it again, and scripting and visualizing and meditation and all of those things. And then they started popping up again. Like, that isn't a coincidence. And at the end of the day, if it's just something in my mind, like whatever, who cares? Because if that allows you to live a more positive experience throughout your life, then like do whatever the hell you need to do to get by.
Yeah. 100%. Even because this guy I watched, he mentioned the same thing. He's like, you might start seeing numbers and be like, okay, how do you know if you're on the right path? It's like, because do you want to be? It's like, if you're not, you'll know, right? But if you, but those reassurances, and I guess we probably should talk about it. So we're talking about is seeing like repeating numbers. So 111, 222, maybe it's the time, like it's about to be 5:55 here. When you see those things, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but like each sequence does have like a specific meaning.
I believe so. Right? Yes, it technically does. I personally view it as anytime I see a synchronicity in numbers, that I'm on the right path. I know that there's like supposed to be different meanings for each one, but I just don't know them. I haven't like dove that deep. And so I just say, whenever I see it, I know that that's me on the right path.
Absolutely. And like, it comes back to, like you said, if you like, so my scripting, so we recently moved into this house, and I have stopped doing it, but I also told myself, hey, I'm going to read this twice a day, morning and night, for 30 days. And when you do that, and at that point, I put it away. I'm like, it's all good. Like, those things are going to happen. I don't need to start like obsessing over it, right? But then you see numbers all the time, and it's like, holy shit, like, you might not know why or how, but like, you're doing the right thing. Like today, I can't lie, like today was stressful at work. Like, just tons of shit was going, quote unquote wrong. But I saw 111, I saw 222, saw also 444, and I'm like, all right, like, just, it's that faith in the process that
Absolutely.
it's a relief. It's like, okay, like, just because I'm maybe having a quote unquote bad day, or I had a quote, bad hours, I'm still on the right path. Like,
Right.
this is
Doesn't
just
mean you're off
happening.
track.
It's just happening for a reason. Learn from it. And when you do that, it's such a relief, because it's
Absolutely.
like, okay, we're good.
Right. And I feel like, again, kind of going back to like religion, it's the same idea that like you have faith that God is protecting you. Again, they are synonyms. Whether you say that you're a religious person or a spiritual person, you believe in God, you believe in the universe, it's literally all the same thing, regardless of like the terminology that you want to
Hmm.
use. So for those who are very religious, like, yeah, I believe that God is guiding me on the right path. Okay, great. You feel secure even though you have bad days, that like you're still, being protected, still on the right path, all of those things. It's literally the same thing. So when you see those synchronicities, whatever you've chosen that you want to see that will allow you to feel confident, then like when you see it, right, you feel just at ease a little bit, like, all right, I'm still, where I'm supposed to be.
Hmm.
When you stop seeing them for a while, you'll notice, I haven't seen this in a really long time. Like maybe I'm a little bit off right now. And then
Yeah.
you kind of evaluate what's going on in your life and, take steps in moving forward. And I like so much what you said about reading your thing day and night for 30 days. You read it and then you let it go and you just stop like worrying and stressing about it, because that's the other thing. Like we want so many things and we are so
Yeah.
attached to certain things. Like I want this job at this company, this specific offer date. I want this money, whatever. And like then we don't get it and we're like, well, what the heck? I manifested it. You
Yeah.
have to understand, and this I think is what is the most important part about manifesting and about life in general. We want the feeling that things will give to us. We literally don't care what it actually is that will give us that feeling. When we're in a relationship, we want to feel loved and supported. When we're in a job, we want to have financial security. When we're in a house, we want to feel secure with a roof over our head. We want to do whatever. So like literally you can envision the things that you want in your house and whatever, and then maybe you take aligned action and buy that pillow that you
Hmm.
envisioned.
Right.
But truly at the end of the day, we don't care who gives us that security, what job, how much, the money that actually makes us feel secure, or the car that makes us feel cool or whatever. Like we don't truly care what it is. We just want the feeling that we think it's going to give us. So by saying that you want, a job, or you want this amount of money, let go of the attachment of what you think will get you there. Don't care about the how, just like let it come. Or don't care about the what, just like let it come to you. Let it happen in the way that it's going to naturally happen. And then like you'll notice, wow, this actually turned out in a different way than I anticipated, but it's better than what I thought.
Absolutely. Oh man, the whole time you're talking about that, I just had this like flashback of me like starting to journal. Like if I grab one of my journals, it's like when I first started, it's like, okay, I want to make this much money in by July 2014 and all this shit. And then all it did was cause stress,
Right.
anxiety. Cause I'm thinking every day, it's like, man, I'm doing this every day. But there's like, don't, like you said, don't put timelines on it. Like just have faith it's going to happen. Like my most successful, it's just like yoga, it takes a lot of practice, right? So like this script that I did most recently has been my most successful. And in the fact that I stopped doing it every single day,
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that it's like, okay. And I think a point that you brought up is like the feeling, because I can, like, I'll give you a personal example for me. I, I'm a car. I love cars, right? And I've always had this like dream car, like a specific one. And then over time that changes. And but it's like, it's all about that feeling,
Right.
right? I'm more striving for, I want something that's going to make me feel a certain way.
Right.
And that's a huge thing. And I think that again takes practice, but it's, you know, learn from my mistakes and your mistakes. It's like just be vague with when it happens. And I think another thing too is some people will write like or better or something like that. So like maybe it's I am happy that I'm making $100,000 or something better or something. So like you don't like maybe you get an offer to make 80,000, but you're at home and it's super good benefits and like there's not like the least specific you are. I think that helps too.
Absolutely.
Even though being specific isn't a bad thing.
It's not, no, but but not being so specific allows you to not have attachment to it.
Right.
And
right.
non-attachment is within one of the limbs of yoga, which is hilarious. But that is very crucial in the way that, right, you don't really necessarily care if you actually end up getting that specific job. Because again, what you're looking for is the feeling of security, financial freedom, all of those things that you're really wanting. So if you end up getting a different offer, maybe it's going to be something that's better for you, like you said. And I love that you said the word better, because literally after a lot of my visualization meditations that I lead, I end it with this, like repeat to yourself after you visualized this or something better. Like I want to get it tattooed on my body because like that's how much I love it so much, because I believe in it so much. Like think of all of the things that your highest self, you know, has and experiences in this future version of your reality, and think about that and mull it over exactly the specifics that you want. And then at the end of the day, repeat all of this or something better, because at the end of the day, even if it's better, then like you're still going to be happy. You're still going to be grateful for the things that you have and the feelings that it gives you.
Absolutely. An example I think of right away is house hunting. So me and my wife, we started looking for houses we seriously started looking, let's say a couple months ago. And I don't know if you're familiar with the housing right now, it is booming.
Insane.
Like, insane. And the whole time it's like, you know, I was writing like, hey, you know, I'm happy and grateful to be living in our dream starter home. And like, we would go and make offers on places, not get it. And it's like, okay, just like stay on track. Like just know the house is coming. And it's hard, but you trust it. Like we had 2 houses. We offered like way over asking, didn't get it. It was just strange. Right. And then the house that we're in now, the address is actually 1333. And I was like, and truthfully, like it was like private seller. It was on the market for longer than any house was. It's down the street from my in-laws. And we saw it, and I'm like, and honestly, the pictures were kind of shitty, but it was like, man, like something's just drawing me to this. Like it was, you know, the 1333. It was like, okay, I feel like we need to check this out. And it all worked out, right? We're in the house, we love it, but it's like, that was our sign to go here. And manifesting does work. It's just be patient. Don't just give up. If, like I said, like, you know, we saw the first house, like, oh, it's the perfect house. The more, you know, once we didn't get it, we think about it more. It's like, God, that really wasn't the perfect house. Like there's this and that and, or better, like exactly what you said. Right. And this house is much better than our first one we looked at, you know, still fit our budget kind of thing, but like giving it up to the universe, it will happen. Just, you know, have faith and patience.
Yeah, the faith and the patience is key, because right, like you said, a lot of people I think in your situation would have been like, well, what the heck, I manifested and I tried so hard and this was the house that was meant for us and now I don't get it. Like manifesting doesn't work, screw this. And then they just stop believing in it. But it's like, again, having that non-attachment and just believing that like positive things are coming to you. You just have to let go of what it is and how it's happening and just let it come and see, you know, kind of where life turns out. And odds are it will be better than you anticipated if you have that positivity in mind, because again, it's manifestation and the law of attraction is working whether we know it or not. So then if you then start thinking manifesting sucks, it doesn't work, you're going to start thinking negatively and being pissed about everything and then start attracting more negativity, and it's going to continuously not show up for you. And then you're going to continuously be angry and frustrated about it. And then like, it's just going to come like with a spiral of downward negativity.
Yeah, because it is going to work. when you think it's not working, it is going to work.
It's
but
still
it's going to work
working. Right. It's working in the
worst
opposite
way.
direction. Right. Exactly.
For sure. Do you have any examples of manifestation, like you could think of specifically? Just to
I feel like since I've
prove that
started,
it works.
yeah, I mean, since I started practicing recently, within the last year, honestly, one of my most major things is just this business. Like I just continuously kept writing. I will have financial freedom. I'll be successful, and I'm better than where I was, but I know that I'm still not there yet. I know I still need to continue taking aligned action to get there. But one of the things that I did manifest that came true, like to a T. So my sister was getting married last year. She was a COVID bride, and she replanned her wedding 5 different times. And it was the most unfortunate and stressful and sad. It just, all of it was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
I scripted for her. Like I chose to write a few scripts dedicated to my sister, and I just kept writing. Gina will feel this. Things will go this way. Like blah, blah, blah. The weather will be perfect. Like no one will get sick. No one will feel sick. No one will, experience any sort of whatever. Like I scripted specifically for her, and literally everything came true for that experience. So she ended up getting married, and we had like a very, very intimate ceremony with her.
That's perfect.
She literally, the weather, because she got married on New Year's Eve, which, like, if you might imagine, would be like super snowy and cold and disgusting. The day before her wedding, it was snowy and disgusting, and the day after it was, but her wedding day was sunny and bright and beautiful. And like the weather was something that I talked about in that scripting. And like just the feeling of her being so joyful and happy. She had such a horrible wedding planning and literally said, I don't care about this wedding. I just want it to be over. And when she had her actual day, she was literally the happiest that I've ever seen her. And like, so that itself, like when you just put positivity and good feelings into what you're wishing for, then just let it kind of happen, and hopefully it will. And you'll start attracting that positivity and that experience. And so again, with that wedding specifically, maybe maybe one thing was not exactly the way that I wrote it, but overall it was exactly as I intended. A positive, loving, happy, beautiful day. And that's exactly what it was.
And maybe even those things, something to take away from that is too, is sometimes the things that don't happen are actually contributing to the bigger goal.
Right.
So whether it's, maybe I guess I'll use a personal example, like every day when I'm going to work, like if something's going wrong, like maybe it's like, okay, it's taking a little bit longer to get ready or things like that. It's like, instead of getting stressed, like, okay, there's a reason why this is happening. Maybe like this happened to me the other day, and I get to work and I drive past this like huge accident, right?
Yeah, maybe
like,
that was you
could have been me,
it was
right?
avoided, right? Like that
exactly.
you took an extra few minutes, and that was not meant for you to be there. And
exactly.
Right. I mean, absolutely.
And the more you can believe in this stuff, it's just, I'll say this, even if it's completely wrong, if it's not real, right? You are gonna feel so much better.
Right. And that's what I said. If it's all bullshit,
not gonna hurt.
Like, right, well, you're not hurting anyone by thinking positively and trying to have positive life experiences. Like, literally, you're only gonna make yourself better. You're gonna make yourself feel better. You're likely then gonna start acting better for yourself. You'll eat better and sleep better and think more positively about yourself and the people around you. Like, that's not a bad way to live. If all of this is BS, at least there's that. But it definitely works, and you and I both know that.
I mean, I'm with you. Yeah, exactly. So before we get out of here, let's talk about your academy. So you're launching an academy. So basically, is it like a course, or is it?
Yeah, it's basically a course, but it's not like a self-guided. It's more so online resources and live workshops. So I'm calling it like a program because it's not like here is all of these modules and you work at a self-pace and then like you're done at the end.
Yep.
I want it to be interactive. I want it to be like I'm personally, talking about all these things, because I mean, clearly you and I have been chatting for over an hour, and I can keep on going. Like when I talk about things that I'm really passionate about, like I think that that's where the value is. Absolutely. And I want people to experience that with me. So so I officially have launched enrollment for, I'm calling it Downward Cow Academy. And it's an education program. And my background, I went to college for health education. So this is very much in my field of expertise and passion, really. And it feels very much, a sign from the universe. When I got laid off from my corporate job because of COVID, and I had all this free time. I started this Downward Cow page. It wasn't supposed to be a business, and then it kind of became one where people were asking me if I was teaching classes, and I started to teach classes. And then I was like, well, this is something that I should do. What do I want to do with this business? Like, what do I want to offer and things? And then I started offering like everything under the sun. Like, I could do this, I could do this. And I just didn't feel any true spark or connection to any of the one thing that I was offering. And then I came up with the idea with this course, essentially this education program. And it feels like two worlds colliding. My background in health education and in positively educating people on better ways that they can improve their health and their quality of life and all of these things. And then also my background in my yoga. And so like being able to bring yoga education to everyone beyond the physical poses, beyond that physical practice. Because again, in our country, in our Western society, we don't think that yoga is anything more than physical. And there is so much more, as we've kind of uncovered today. And that's where that education piece really is my heart and soul. And I love public speaking. I love like educating people. I mean, it's truly everything in one. And it just feels like I finally, because I kept manifesting, like I'm going to find a business direction. I'm going to figure out like what it is, the value that I have to offer. And I feel like this is it. So I'm super excited. It's going to officially launch July 5th is our first cohort that we're going to be doing together. Okay. It's 6 weeks consecutively. Every week is going to have 2 live workshops. Every day, or every workshop rather, is going to talk about one of the limbs of yoga, and then we're going to talk about manifestation and gratitude practices. And so that will cover the 6 weeks. And then online, it will just have resources, and like I'll have a Google Drive of just like mindful workshops, or rather worksheets and things like that. So it's not like it's anything that you have to work through. It's more like, here's a library of resources when you want to start practicing Nadi Shodhana, which is that, that pranayama practice, that breathing exercise. Here is how you do it. When you want to practice, something like this, when you want to learn how to script and you want to have journaling prompts or whatever, here are some resources for you. So it's not necessarily like you feel like it's school. It's more like an academy in the terms of education, but you feel like it's this program that's like nurturing you, and there's a community of people that are alongside with you that want to learn about yoga as education. Because truly, unless you become a 200-hour or more registered yoga teacher, you will never really learn about all of these other things. And it's sad because these are so impactful. And that's what I want to do, is bring these things that people think are so for, the monks of the world and all of the super extremists. Like, we are regular people trying to practice this yoga practice that we can truly improve our lives, and we can do it in like really relatable ways.
That's awesome.
So that's what I'm trying to do here. I am truly so excited. I cannot wait, and I appreciate your positive words for it. I can't wait.
No problem. You could feel the passion. If you're listening, you could feel it too, and that's huge. I mean, especially when the world of like quote unquote like courses, it's I'm so glad you're doing it the way you're doing it, because I've done courses and you're just trying to get through it as quick as you can. And if you're able to if you're going at your own speed, you're going to miss so much stuff and really not take it in. I think people think it's like, okay, if I do this course, I just like get that knowledge. What I like about what you're doing is it's more of like, this is weekly, it takes it slow. You're forced to learn about it. But if you want to learn more, here's the documents to learn about it. It's perfect. So who's this for? Like who's your demographic?
Truly my demographic, and it's kind of hard to pinpoint, and this is one thing that I still sometimes struggle with, because I am here, and my kind of like tagline, I guess, for the business is like yoga for every body. Yoga beyond the poses for every body, as in anyone who feels disconnected from the practice because they don't look a certain way, or they don't have enough money, or that non-stereotypical yoga student. I'm here for you. Or for those who are just interested in learning more about the non-physical practice, I'm here for you, because none of those, I feel like, especially combined, there's not really a community for those kinds of people. The people who want to learn about yoga but also are really intimidated by it, or like intimidated by the yoga culture that exists in this country. So I'm just kind of here for anyone. I mean, I most of my following right now are like mostly women. They're mostly
Mm-hmm.
between like 18 and 35, kind
Sure.
of those kinds of people. So probably around there. But like, hey, if someone like my mom's age wants to join me, like by all means, because I think that clearly these are such powerful practices. It doesn't matter how old you are. Like if you are willing to put in the time and energy to learn about these things, like they can literally impact your life at any age. So I'm really here for anyone who has felt like just not accepted by yoga or any
Yeah.
form of movement, or just doesn't feel that like there's enough information about the things that they want to learn about non-physically. And so like that's why I'm here for you.
I love that, especially the virtual part too. Like just what your message is fits perfectly for that right now. Because I mean, obviously, maybe you do want to do in-person stuff down the line, but if someone's struggling with, you know, loving their body and things like that, like going into a gym or yoga studio is super intimidating, even for honestly anybody who's just starting out in anything. If you can do it online, you got no excuse.
Right.
No excuses.
Absolutely.
So that's if someone wanted to just like get started in yoga, like what would be like the first thing, like doing like a free YouTube class or just
Yeah, I feel like for those who are really just trying to dip their toe, first of all, just look like on YouTube. And yeah, that's how
yeah,
I started. When
right,
I was living in a one bedroom apartment with my then boyfriend, now husband, and
hmm
I was just like truly I was frustrated with other forms of movement. I tried so hard to get into weightlifting. I tried so hard to get into like other things, and I just couldn't get into it, and I was feeling discouraged. Again, very kind of going back to like the middle school me that was bullied, all of those
yeah,
things, like not feeling worthy of any certain type of movement. That then I was like, you know what, let me just try to find something else. And like I said, I knew that yoga existed, of course, but I had never done anything. And I feel like I stumbled upon a YouTube video one time, and I was like, here's like at the time I just thought it was a workout. Like that's literally what I
yeah, right,
associated yoga with, was just like
hmm
here's a workout, here's something that you can do in your house with no shoes and socks on. You can have a very minimal space to do it. And I was like, sure, let me just try this. And that's how it blossomed. So I feel like for people starting, just take some YouTube classes, see what you like, follow some of the people if you're interested in yoga that like jive and vibe with the kind of things that you're interested in. If you are feeling a certain way and looking a certain way and looking for certain things, then don't follow the people that make you feel bad. If they're in that community, follow the people that make you feel good about it. So if you're someone that wants to follow me, for example, like, we exist. So just
hmm
come find us, because your community is out there. You just have to kind of search for them. But again, don't follow the people who are in the yoga community or the fitness community or whatever that like
hmm
make you feel like garbage, because like that's not the vibe that we're going for. We need to
absolutely,
elevate our vibration. Again, we need to have positive people and experiences and things in our lives. And I feel like that's a great way to start, is just find some of the things that like, or the people that you really vibe with, and the
yeah,
people that like you think are sending messages that you are wanting to bring into your life, and then kind of see where it goes from there.
absolutely. Yeah, there's always someone out there for everyone. Even
Absolutely.
you see, especially more now, you see it. Like it used to be, everyone. It was so like Instagram, let's use for example, was always so cookie cutter. It's like here's the fitness guy, here's the fitness girl, yoga, here's the vegan, all that stuff, right? And now you've got, which I give a lot of credit for. You got women that are promoting weight gain on Instagram. People who
Mhm.
are, maybe, super skinny and they want to gain weight and they're getting bullied for being skinny. And it's like, there's so much, if you're dealing with something, there's always someone
Someone
else out
else.
there. Always.
Right.
Even if it's one person, you connect with one person on there. Now you got a friend who you can talk to. And the internet's a beautiful thing where it's like, you know, I might not be able to put a flyer up to get a support group going, but I can go online and I could find 100 people that we could talk to and
Absolutely.
use your
And
resources.
Yeah, that's what I love so much about the virtual space, and why,
Hmm.
for at least the foreseeable future, I have no plan to do things in person,
Yeah.
because I have students that don't live, like, they live in different parts of the country that I
Hmm.
would never know otherwise, and would never have be a part of my community otherwise. And that's what I think is so powerful, right? Like, the internet literally opens up you to the entire globe of
Yeah.
people who could be struggling with the things that you're struggling with, or interested in the things that you're also interested in. And you just got to do a little digging. Again, take that inspired action, align it with the things that you want to align with, and find those people, find that community, and again, see kind of where it goes from there. And I would only believe that it would be a positive one.
Absolutely. Before we get to our last couple questions, how would you, if someone was interested in, I'm sure people listening are interested in manifestation now, they might be confused about it, but they're really interested, where would be the first step for you?
Oh,
It's hard.
it is really
There's a
hard.
lot of goofy shit out there. You know what I
Right, there
mean?
is. And then again, kind of saying like just watch The Secret makes it almost like you want to
Yeah.
not be into it anymore after you watch it. And for those listening, The Secret's not a bad thing. It just
No.
feels very far-fetched, I guess is the best way to describe it. It's like
Yes.
watching it feels like it's not a real thing. It's like this is too good to be true kind of thing. Um, and again, whether or not those things were actually happened, I choose to believe that they probably did, but it's filmed in a way that makes it feel icky. And like that's
Yeah,
not
it's
what I
very
like about it.
fantastical kind of.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like, just try to look up manifestation. I feel like one of my examples would be like just search the hashtag manifestation, but like
Yeah.
that would open you up to probably so many people. But
Hmm.
at least again, maybe start searching that, so you find again this maybe community of people
Exactly. Yeah.
that then are talking about the thing that you're interested in learning about, and then that's the way to like get your information, and kind of at least make it feel like there's a real human, other people that are believing or wanting to believe in the same thing that you do, so it makes you feel like less alone in the things that you're interested in. Like you said, make this community. Like if you're
Hmm.
interested in manifesting and it's very overwhelming, find one of us who talks about
Yeah.
manifestation. We are real people. We are not like some crazy famous,
No.
celebrities or
Right.
Instagram influencers or whatever. Like we're just normal people talking about this thing. Come join our community if you're interested in it.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I'll have to say this because on a podcast I was on, I did say The Secret, the book, is one of my favorite books.
Yeah.
It is a lot better than the movie.
Yeah, the movie
Um,
is just a
yeah,
little
I tell people
lame.
this, like if someone just like the Secret did get me into all this probably back in like honestly like 2010 or something like a long time ago.
Mhm.
Like that, it's not the worst way to get your foot in the door. Like you watch it and you're like, okay, that's like what they're talking about. Now, how do I actually do that?
Right. It's at least,
It's
yeah, it's
easy.
your
It's
foot
easy to
in.
digest. Yeah,
Yes, definitely. And at least it gets your mind kind of starting to think, all right, there's
absolutely.
some information about this that like I've never heard of before. Like let me dive deeper. And then at least it sparks that interest, and then you can go and find the people who are talking about it that like you align with.
Oh, exactly. It's like Bob Proctor. He's huge in that in The Secret, and he's even talked about how obviously they did it in kind of a weird light. Like they didn't even know, honestly, like they didn't even know that the movie was going to be as big as it was.
Mm-hmm.
Unless like Bob Proctor is a really good guy to follow, who's not like, if you go on YouTube and type in like law of attraction, you're gonna get some goofy stuff.
Weird people, right?
Weird,
Yeah, and
just
it then
fine.
turns you off, right?
Right.
Not that those people don't exist, and if you are a spooky kind of human, then
Yeah, it's cool
those are those
too.
people for you, absolutely. But for someone who's not that way, it turns you off, and again, it makes you feel like it's very woo woo, and
Yeah.
like these are just some hippy dippy weirdos that believe in aliens and whatever, and, whatever.
Right.
And so I feel like that is definitely someone. Like there's another person that I have followed, and she has built a business off of manifestation, and it's literally Manifestation Babe is her Instagram.
There you
And
go.
she's like a normal human that like she literally was like living on her grandparents' couch, and then manifested a multi-million-dollar business, and like that's where she is now. And it's just like that is real. Like I mean, she
Hmm.
didn't just like poof make $1 million. Like this is the reality of her life, and she was a no, for lack of a better word, a nobody, and
Right.
now here she is with a big following, and has manifested this like dream life. And that again is like a human that looks a little bit more just like the average Joe. It's not
Yeah.
like someone that is, again, I know I continuously say like monks or just like people that I feel like are so stereotypical in the
Yes.
other way of like the Eastern world,
Mm-hmm.
like the Eastern human that believes in yoga and manifesting, like those kinds of people that like I think people in this country or in this culture think are like wrinkly and old and like have all this wisdom, but like they're not relatable. Like this girl is very relatable. It just makes it feel like it's attainable, and
Yeah.
that's something that I think is important, to follow people that like make it seem legit.
You got to find that tribe.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned Bob Proctor, like that guy, like I want you to look him up after this.
Yeah,
It's
I
literally
will.
like it's like Colonel Sanders, like talking
Yeah.
about law of attraction. Like it's literally just like this
Nice.
old white dude, white hair. It's like 80 years old, but he's been doing this since like for like 60 years.
Dang.
Like, and again, you're not gonna see him like, oh, that guy looks like, he was at a Grateful Dead concert or something. Like it's
Right.
it was nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? Like it's not in that stereotypes.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get to our final questions. If you can go back, let's say when you first started Downward Cow, which is what a year ago?
Yeah, about a year ago. Yeah.
Okay. If you can give yourself one piece of advice, what would it have been?
I feel like a really great piece of advice that I, again, knowledge doesn't dictate your behavior, I knew was something that I needed to just focus on, is that like believe in the process of manifesting, believe that like you are on the right path right now, because I feel like in the beginning when I was not finding direction and I was like throwing everything at the sun, trying to find like what I wanted to do with this business or, whatever, I got really frustrated. And I was receiving comments from friends and family like, when are you going to get a real job? Like, when are you going to figure this life out? And I was like, I don't know. I guess I'm not being successful. Like, I guess this is just not for me here.
Mm-hmm.
And I really doubted myself. And I feel like I hindered a lot of the manifestation process and just like the yoga process and all the things that I literally talk about. It made me not believe in it because I was just feeling so down in the way that like I've never run a business before. I went to health school. I didn't go to business school. I don't know how to do any of this, and I'm learning along the way. And I felt like I just got really frustrated that I was just like, I'm dumb. I don't know what I'm doing. So like, maybe this just is not meant for me. And I feel like, even still, there's a lot of times that those are doubts, and it's not like we're not bad people for doubting ourselves, but overall taking the approach that like there are better things coming for you, and like you can be successful in whatever you're trying to accomplish and manifest, etc., if you just like believe that it's coming and take the inspired action to get you there. So I think like that's something that I would have told myself back then. It's just like, trust the process. Like, you're here for a reason. Obviously this pandemic happened to everyone. It's not like it just happened to me. So, take that with like the grain of salt that it is. It's not like this was specifically my path, but I believe that like, in this pandemic, I lost my job and I created something out of nothing. And that was the way I think that life was supposed to happen for me, at least right now. Yeah. So I just needed to believe in that sooner.
That's awesome advice. Trust in the and it's so like hindsight's 2020, right? But it's like going back to those practices, like you knew what you believed in. Those other people, the naysayers, all the noise, those people are just, they're more pissed that they didn't commit to their dreams.
Right. Yeah.
I think
the people who are speaking really loud are the people who are not where like you're supposed to be. Like they're just the people that are, they're not aligned with the things that you're aligned with, and they're aggressively and angrily telling you that you're wrong because like they're upset that it's not happening for them.
Yeah. Next time someone does that, we should just give them like a therapist referral.
Yeah.
Here, you have, like, thank you for that advice, but you need to talk to this.
And here's this guided meditation, and here are all these resources. Like you need to figure out your life.
And they'll be like, oh shit, you do know what you're talking about. It's like, oh. One other thing, I mean, before we get to the last question, how can people find you?
So I am on Instagram. That's mainly my largest platform. Just at downward_cow. You literally can't miss it. It's a black and white logo with a cow doing yoga. I also have a website, downwardcow.com. That's where you can find all of the information about the program and the academy. Those are two basically of the main places, the platforms that I'm on. I have a TikTok, but it's truly pitiful. So like, just don't even worry about it.
Right.
I try to jump on the TikTok train and I just like can't keep up. It's just exhausting. And I find that like Instagram is much
train.
more, it is very much so. Instagram is way more my level right now. So that's
Sure.
where I'm at. So yeah, you can find me there.
Awesome. So last question. How do you want to be remembered?
Ooh. I feel like this is going to sound so cheesy or,
It's okay.
like just I really believe, at least in terms of business, at least in terms of like how I'm leaving my mark on the world, aside from my personal life, because personally, I want to be remembered by like just having good character and being loving and compassionate and accepting and inclusive and all of those things that I obviously preach and talk about. Like I try my best to be that kind of person in my everyday life with my friends and my family and my, the people closest to me. But in terms of business, like I want this business, this company, this program to be my legacy. Like I would love for this to be what I'm known for. Like this young girl who's just a random person from the suburbs of Chicago who created this program that like allows people to like tap into their personality or their true potential and learn about all these things to like literally change their lives and just make it better. Like I feel like that is something that it's such a passion for me, and it feels like two worlds colliding that like I believe that I'm truly on that path, and I feel like I want that to be the legacy. I want people to remember that like this is something that I created and it was for good, for positivity. Like I wasn't creating something just to make money. Like I literally, obviously I'm charging for this program because it's a lot of time and energy and expertise on my end, but I literally, I just want to provide this to you because I know that this is amazing and I know that it's valuable and I want you to experience it like I do. And I think that's something that I would love to leave behind.
I love that. It's beautiful. I mean, even just through our conversation, we were talking for like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
You feel the passion. You are clearly aligned with how you want to be remembered. I mean, if we never talked again, that's exactly how I would describe you.
I appreciate that.
You're welcome. You're very accepting, and with Downward Cow, like the potential is just huge. I'm jealous. It's huge. It's huge.
Thank you.
It's bigger than you. And I think that's what, at the end of the day, that's what you want. And the yoga in general is so, the community is so huge. And you got to think there's got to be twice as many people that are afraid to do yoga.
Right. Who are not in the community yet.
Exactly. And they're not, now, there you go. There's business.
Yeah.
And not even just business, it's the community, the rewards, I'm sure people have reached out to you and thank you for all that stuff.
That has been the coolest thing to see, like people value the content and the tips that I'm creating and just like the message that I'm sharing. Like, you don't know how truly valuable this has been for me. Like, I feel like I've found my community here. I'm like, I can die happy now. Like, I feel so, without anything else, if I make no money, like that is so impactful and that's so amazing. And, I just am so grateful for the opportunities that I've had so far.
And I don't mean to say this is a negative thing, but like, even if the company dissolved tomorrow, like you still did what you said you were going to do. Like, you know what I mean? Like you started something that's all encompassing and that's going to live on forever. Yeah. So I just want to thank you so much for coming on today. I could talk forever about manifestation like you did, and we probably can, So thank you for everyone listening to another episode of the Anxious Ambition Podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Anxious Ambition Podcast. You can find us on all podcast platforms. Follow us on Instagram at Anxious Ambition. You can actually watch this podcast over on YouTube. Lastly, check out our website, anxiousambition.com, where we have all of our merch, and a portion of every sale is donated to NAMI, and it helps support the individuals and their families who are suffering from mental illness. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, take it easy.
Anxious ambition.